Welcome back, and let's continue the discussion now on the new minimum wage. And I'm now being joined from another part of Lagos by Obinna Anyanwu, who is the MD CEO of Capital Square Limited. Obinna, let's start by looking at the position of the governor now. The governors now are saying that they cannot pay. Basically, what do you make of this impasse?
Thank you for having me on the program. First of all, I'll say, both parties, both on the government side and on the labor side, they all have valid reasons. Labor has a valid reason, looking at where the minimum wage has been for workers to agitate for an increase. Then also, government also has a valid reason of saying, listen, there's also a limit to what we can, chew or bite, given the level of how will I call it, looking at our recurrent expenditures and also the the income potential of the economy. But one of the things we are not promptly addressing it to say, if you go back in time, for me, most times there's never been any time government will come out and say, okay, look, we've done a study or whatever, we think we should increase the minimum wage. It's always been an agitation from labor's point of view, looking at inflation rate and all that, and also looking at to say that, listen, this pay can't take us home. But what I believe is that the fundamental problem is because government has not been able to really deepen the economy, really deepen the productive capacity of the economy. Because another thing they should be able to look at is to say, if we are not able to pay, can we have a genuine conversation, that both parties will come to the table fully trusting each other that they'll be able to work out something that is beneficial for all. What I mean today is to say that, listen, is there a way government can also, having looked at it to say, listen, maybe we need to shrink the labor force, use technology to drive governance. And also, as you're shrinking
but Labour is strongly opposed to job cuts and has made it clear that it would not accept it.
Today, this has been done in the private sector, in banks. You can also begin to take this labor through entrepreneurial development programs, where you can have a huge payoff, and some people can become entrepreneurs on their own and begin to be employers of labor as well. Because you need to look at it that, today, most economies are shrinking down their labor force because they are using technology to drive governance. Now, you also need to equip those people technically with, with the skills they will need to migrate to other jobs. So the same people that are on that side can also begin to, if you properly, equip them, they can begin to they will be competitive in getting other jobs. That's the point I'm making.
Look, I appreciate the fact that the minimum wage in this country is very low and needs to go up. But do you honestly think that at the moment, some states in Nigeria or state governors in this country can pay the 13,000 naira minimum wage?
The jobs we talk about today, they can on their own set up businesses. They can on their own become employers of labor. They can on their own begin to set up probably farms. They can on their own begin to set up, soft industries, and you can encourage them to come in clusters, in groups. That's what we're advocating. You've also seen where, there's a lot of entrepreneurial programs that are going on today, so you can also set up and create a fund that will take these people out to begin to create, become employers of labor themselves. But however, I will also agree that if you look at it comparatively in Africa, today we claim to be, the biggest economy in Africa, but we are doing on the average, minimum wage here is $50. If you look at a country like South Africa is doing over $200. Gabon is doing about, $324. Egypt is doing about $174. Tunisia is doing about $247. Even Ghana here is doing about $57. $7 higher than Nigeria.
Now, is it necessary to have a national minimum wage? What's wrong with asking the various states, for instance, to go and negotiate their own minimum wage, if you like, rather than have this national minimum wage or a national threshold now that nobody is allowed to go below? Because the fact is that the states are not the same.
Today that you and I are sitting, the governors are not most of the states. It's just a few states. There are states that can today pay that new minimum wage. But majority of the states, as they stand today, with their revenue generating capacity, cannot pay it. That's the truth of the matter. But another thing we can look at is to say that is there a way, there can be a middle level? Yes, there is. What Labour has also come out to say, and that's when I go back, I talk about, building confidence and trust in this negotiation. Labour is also saying, listen, we know the hefty pays you've approved for yourself. We know the kind of, today in Nigeria, the fundamental problem that we have is that governance is not sincere in terms of the level of the amount we are using to drive governance. In terms of, look at, today I was just reading, it's being reported in the papers, that the president refused to approve a procurement request that came for a certain agency to procure premium SUV vehicles for operational purposes. And the president declined it and frowned at it to say that this same agency, with the terrain of where they go and the work they do, what they should actually be bringing to the table is approval to get Hilux vehicles and not for them to buy premium SUV vehicles. So that tells you there's a problem. And today, if you look at it, there's a sitting minister that superintends over that agency. And for you to get to federal executive council for approval, it means that the minister on his own has pre-approved it. So it shows you there are certain leakages in the system. So if they're able to block those leakages, if the governors and all the state governments also come together and review the cost of governance, what they're using to drive governance, both in terms of their own salaries, allowances, ESSA codes and all that, I believe also if they do this in good spirit, the labor people we talk about, they are human beings who all buy from the same market. And I'm also sure that they are reasonable people. So if they see our leaders, the governors, and state assembly people, commissioners, leading by example, cutting their own allowances, I'm also sure that labor on their own, if they see the effort, will be able, there'll be a middle ground for everybody. That's what I think. That's what I believe.
Now, how do you think this issue can be resolved?
How I think it can be resolved is that it's not the threat that will resolve it. It's not also by going on strike, that will resolve it. Yes, you might go on strike, and maybe out of political, due to political whatever, they'll budge. But what we need to get to is how can we look at this for the longer term? How can it be sustainable? How do we get to the negotiation table and build our trust and confidence in the sense that the two parties will come together and not just, be selfish about the negotiation, but look at it in the larger interest of the state economies, and also for the state governors and their government to be transparent even in the revenue generating capacity of the state and the income earning capacity of the state, and share those data and those information with the labor people. If you're able to share that with them, if you're able to bring that transparency into the entire negotiation process, I think they will be able to come to an agreement, the individual states.
And of course, if Labour does not get the government, to pass the bill before the next election, do you think it will be able to do so after the elections?
Yes, I also believe there's a point in that. But, this point would have been valid and workable where we have a true Nigeria where everybody is treated equally and the same. Meaning that today you don't bring in state of origin. Meaning that today it is fluid, that the same labor can move in every state of Nigeria if I'm an employee, it means that if I am in Imo State Civil Service and I don't like what is being paid, so I can come to Lagos and apply. And that's that thing. It goes back to the skills set I talked about. So because you have to be competitive. Now, if you do it that way, and those states, which is what has happened in the past in terms of even how you are creating today, certain states generate more internal revenue than others and they're able to do more projects than other states. And the other states that are not well to do like the other states are getting pressure, from their citizens to say, listen, why is this state doing better than you in terms of infrastructure and all of that? So if the same thing happens, then it means that, the states can on their own as well, looking at the resources they have, can say, okay, this is what we'll be able to afford. So if the other state is doing more and people are not leaving you to go to that other state or whatever, so it means that you need to wake up. It means that you need to do something different. But the point is that will that ever happen? And also don't forget that yes, they have state unions, but those state unions also flow into the national union. So will they be able to allow that to happen, so that your guess is as good as mine. I'm not sure they will let that happen. If you also listen to their national chairman, who is saying, even when the governors talked about it, he said, listen, at the national level, it is 30,000 naira. That's what is agreed with government, according to them, in quotes, and that the states should go back to their government. And that's why they are threatening, if you're not able to meet that maybe you will lose election. Those threats have come out in the open.
Of course, as we know, the document has been sent to the president. The president has to send the bill now to the National Assembly for the National Assembly to work on and then pass so that it becomes law. So as we speak, there's no, as we speak, as a matter of fact, the 30,000 naira is not the new national minimum wage because it's not yet law. But do you see the president sending that bill to the National Assembly and the National Assembly getting it passed before the next election?
I'm not sure that will happen. You and I know that. Most of the guys in the National Assembly, there is a fight for survival. They are trying to come back, renew their mandate. And if you look at, so I don't see that happening. So what might just happen is the way it's been done. How it came, they agreed. But today you've heard what federal government is saying, no, there's no, so there's this shift in blame game now that is going on. So it's just for political expediency. But I think what should happen is that we need to find a more structured way of doing this. And I also believe that government should not always be waiting for labor to hoodwink them, or probably, that's over time. It's been an agitation from the labor side. I've never seen government coming to say, okay, you know what, we've seen what is happening in the economy, okay, we're going to do this. No, it's always come as, a pressure from labor side. But also, just like you said it, I am not also, labor should stop doing this also, not to be waiting until, when there's an election, So I think they should start the process, early enough, and take it through, because that's when I talk about, transparency in the system, integrity and all of that, because also the government in power now, might be feeling is the opposition that is, creating this whole thing. So they might not also be coming, in good spirit to negotiate. So I think if they start it early enough, not in an election year, you understand, there will be that trust and confidence. There will be that trust and confidence for them to negotiate, because it's just a negotiation. And if you're coming to a negotiating table, you come with your facts. Because it's the facts that will swing the other party. That's what I believe in.
Obinna Anyanwu, MD CEO of Capital Square Limited, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on this very controversial issue. We'll just wait and see how all of this ends. But we're watching to see when the president will generate that bill and send to the National Assembly. One thing I do know for sure is that Labour, and of course, they've made it very clear that they would want to see the bill passed before the next election, because you never can tell what would happen after the elections. This is certainly the best time to demand whatever you want of politicians. Let's wait and see what happens. Well, that's it on the program. If you want to watch it again, it's just simple. Go to our website, tv360nigeria.com. You'll find this program and lots more there. You can also go to our various social media platforms on YouTube and, of course, Twitter. You'll find the program there, and you'll find lots more there. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week.